secret. Stay tuned.
Hey,
Hi,
Francine.
I got a secret.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that secret has something to do with helping me write my story better because right now I'm not happy.
Okay, let's talk about that. What is so unhappy in your heart?
I just feel like it's not a real story. Like it just, you know, I don't think it follows hmm, I don't think it follows the pattern of what a story is supposed to be. I don't know. I think I have imposter syndrome. I can't write this right. I am not doing a good job. Francine, this cannot go in the book. I don't know what to do. So,
Well, I got a secret. No, it's not a secret. What I am going to do is I am going to share a story development template with you. And this is what I use when I'm developing my stories. So if you stay tuned, everybody, stay tuned. Between today and our episode next week, we are going to write a backstory for one of the characters in my next children's book. So let's walk through this and see how this could work for you. So, first,
all right.
Heidi, let me ask you, in your story, you have a character, right?
Yeah.
What's your character's name?
Mm. Heidi.
Good start, good start. And that, excuse me, that is perfectly acceptable. If your chapter is about you, then by all means, you are the character, use that name. In my children's book, Princess Francie is my inner child, and she is one of the main characters in all of my books. Easy peasy, right? So now, the next part of this template is give a description of your character. You know, the physical appearance, personality traits, background story.
Mm. See, this is kind of some of the stuff that I was talking about. Like, I feel that if I were to witness a crime and someone later asked me to describe the person who did it, I would be the worst person to ask. I'd be like, brown hair, no blonde, maybe it was red. I don't know. So I don't pay attention to details a lot. So what I found as I was starting to write the stories, I thought it felt kind of boring or empty because it didn't have enough details. So I really like this question because that kind of just all of a sudden I had an aha moment like, oh, like just describe some of the stuff because as people are reading it, this isn't a film or, something like that where it's visual. You need to use your words to describe it, and that's what makes it good.
That when people read a book, they want to picture what they're reading about. They don't want to hear you say, I walked down to the store. I strolled down to the store because I was feeling good and I was wearing my favorite dress. And the dress looked like blah, 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 blah. That
Mm.
way, they're getting a picture in their mind about what is going on in this story. So if I remember, we talked about your story before,
Yes.
and your character's description will change throughout your story at times because the same Heidi that went into this scenario is not the same Heidi that came out.
Right.
So that's where we're going to talk about later your obstacles, because you hit all these obstacles somewhere in the middle between where you started and where you ended. So to have an obstacle, what do you think you need? You need some kind of a goal. So now, what is Heidi's goal at the beginning of the story?
To be a rock star. It's always the goal. Yeah.
Heidi wants to be a rock star. Okay? So, excuse me. I guess when you're giving your appearance, then your appearance will be that of what people would identify as a rock star? Or do you not personify a rock star yet, and that is what's causing the obstacle?
Well, at the time that this story is put in place, I had not yet seen myself as the rock star I have become. That didn't happen until long after, well, the end of this story, basically. So it happens at the end, but not at the beginning.
Was it Paul Harvey who said, and now the rest of the story?
Yes.
So your primary desire then, the character is going to have a primary desire. And your primary desire was to be a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
And what motivated you to want to be a rock star?
Oh, how much I love singing and how happy it is for me to sing. So, you know, if I'm singing and singing for people, life's good. So that's that was pretty much my motivation from always. It's like it
To make
makes me
yourself feel
happy,
good.
so I should do it.
Hey, that is a solid motivation. It makes me feel good. But you can't just say that in a book. It makes me feel good. You have to describe how it makes you feel so your reader can understand the exhilarating feeling of getting up on stage and singing in front of a crowd as opposed to not being up on the stage.
So when I get on the stage and I look out at everyone, it feels like I just jumped out of an airplane and am free falling to my death. But then the song and the music starts, and that's kind of like the wind and the lift and the parachute kind of going out. And then when my mouth opens and I start singing along to the song, all of a sudden the fear of falling or dying or whatever, all that just disappears. And I just have this really clear view of what life is supposed to be like, what you're supposed to experience in life. That like passion inside of you gets quenched in that moment. And that's what I feel like when I'm singing. Is that better?
Get in there, get in there. But now there's a conflict. What is stopping you from becoming the rock star? What is stopping you from obtaining this feeling?
A ridiculous self-sabotage. But it was someone else's fault at the time.
Okay, you do have to explain how self-sabotage could be somebody else's fault.
Well, because at the time of this story, when it began, my perception of life was very much from the victim perspective. And from the victim perspective, even though I was doing things that would sabotage my success in the future, I was blaming other people in other situations for why everything was happening to me at the time. And I wasn't taking self-responsibility for that. And so that's really what put me in a bad place, was having that perception and not knowing how to get out of it.
Self-perception. That's the second time you mentioned that. Self-perception. You couldn't describe yourself because you don't pay attention. But then when you talked about it again later, you said your self-perception was telling you that you're something you're not. So what is it? Either you don't pay attention,
this is so hard. You've got Heidi now and Heidi then. Heidi then did not pay attention at all. She was clueless. She was head in the sand about a lot of stuff. Heidi at the end of this story, I haven't figured out where the story ends. We only had like how many 1,000 words we're shooting for. That's the other part, is trying to figure out, like, yeah, where does the end Heidi end? But Heidi now is much more self-aware than Heidi was then.
Okay, so self-awareness. So in the story development template, you have your obstacle of desire. Your obstacle of desire is to be a rock star. And then you have an antagonist. I don't know why I have such a hard time with this word. Antagonistic force.
Antagonistic. Yeah, that one's a tongue twister a little bit.
So your antagonistic force is your self-perception.
Oh, yeah.
You antagonize yourself.
Totally.
So that's going to be the turning point of your story when you go from totally not self-aware, antagonizing yourself, and then something's going to shift where you start becoming self-aware and turn into self-aware Heidi.
That helped me cut out a lot of stuff that probably doesn't need to be in the story.
So you understand now how this template works. And
as long as you're there, like, leading me through the template, though, right?
Well, see, and that's the beauty of a collaboration, is that we're all in this together. We will all work on this together, because I may need help with my part of the story too, even though I am a best-selling author and I teach this class. I still, when I'm looking at my own story, it's all so close to me and so much a part of me that I'll describe it so it makes perfect sense in my head, but then you might say, well, I didn't understand that. And that will let me know, okay, I need more description there to explain it to the reader. Or, like you just said, okay, now I know what to cut out. Sometimes you have 5,000 words, but you only have space for 1,000. You got to figure out what to cut out, what really isn't part of the story you're trying to tell, what doesn't move the story along. So that's why I love this template, because once you get the basic components, then you start adding description to it. It's just like an outline. You get your outline of what you're going to talk about, your character, what they look like, what it is they want out of life. So for my story, from aircraft electrician in the military to children's book author, I can't tell my whole life story. I just need to pick out a few simple pieces of the story that move it along from I was an aircraft electrician in the military, and then how that turned into being a children's book author. So, do I need a little backstory on how I became an aircraft electrician? Maybe. Do I need to explain everything I did as an aircraft electrician? Probably not. So,
That's classified.
some of it's embarrassing too, but we won't go there. Oh man, excuse me. So let's talk about next week.
Okay.
Next week, I am going to take a sample out of my children's book that's coming out soon.
Okay.
And we're going to take one of the kids in the book and give that little child a backstory of how they ended up in Camp Confidence.
Okay.
So we could see how we define the character and how we talk about the character's desire and what the obstacles were. Because in the book, the problem is solved. But we don't know how the character got there because it's a children's book. It's not a 800-page novel. So we're going to give this kid a little bit of a backstory and practice, just like we did with Heidi's story today.
And I'm so glad this is recorded, because I'm going to go back and then I'm going to use the worksheet that's, by the way, you've heard us talking about the worksheet through the episode. And so if you join us in the Believe Retreat community, which, let me switch screens here. So you got the QR code in the corner of Francine's screen there.
And I will
Go ahead.
I will drop it down in the chat too.
That's excellent. It's a free, awesome community where every day we do a little retreat and do some self-reflection and stuff. It's just like doing this worksheet together. It helps sometimes to do self-reflection together, but we've got this posted in there now, so you can get your copy and you can start working on developing your story like we were doing with mine today. And I'm definitely going to take this before next week, before we start working on the imaginary characters, and just kind of look at some of the stuff I've had written down and put it on into your worksheet and see how that simplifies things for me. Maybe I'm not going to be so frustrated about my writing skills after this.
Okay. Speaking of writing skills, we have a little writing workshop coming up in a few weeks.
Oh,
And if you want to be in the room and workshop your story, just like we did Heidi's and like the one we will do next week, Heidi, how can they do that?
well, you just need to go over to our website at heidzelincoaching.com/believe retreat. And when you get over there, you're going to want to click on join the collaboration. And that's going to take you to tell you all about the cool events we have coming up for collaborating on writing. So you don't have to do all this stuff on your own, figure it out. And so you can get the worksheet on the community and then go and get your ticket for this upcoming event. It's going to be on July 22nd at 7 p.m. We are updating that information on the site. So right now you'll probably see a different date, but you'll see that updated tomorrow. And that's going to be 2 hours of us getting some feedback from each other to see exactly like we were talking. Is this part important for the story? Maybe this is not so important. And I find this with my songwriting all the time. I got to fit a very short amount of words into about a 3-minute kind of format and still tell a story. And sometimes I will get really, really attached to some lyrics or some words and how I had written something, but it just doesn't quite fit. And it's not until I've shared it with someone or I've done it out loud a bunch of times that sometimes it really takes, that one line there just doesn't really seem to go. And then I have to realize it's time to just let it go. So there's another part to this that you might not even realize that's going on with your creativity and the ability to change your words and edit stuff. You need feedback from other people during the writing process to kind of help you get unstuck from things you shouldn't be as attached to.
And exciting. We have hired an editor for this book. My friend Terry Wells will be our editor. She edited my first book. So I'm really, really excited about that. So once we workshop these together, give each other feedback, we have a professional editor we'll be sending the stories to. And I think we should maybe do a class on proper etiquette of working with an editor.
Now, I would love that because, well, not a published author, so never worked with an editor. I can tell you that the more in creative mode I am, the worse my spelling and punctuation gets. So definitely need an editor, but I'm sure they wouldn't appreciate it if the first draft they looked at had a ridiculous amount of spelling errors and punctuation stuff that was insane. So you probably have some other things that are best practices for that in mind as well.
Spell check, baby, spell check. But you still you can't trust spell check all the time because sometimes it won't catch if you spelled the right word wrong or the wrong word right.
And that's why we need an editor, because my eyes will fly right over that and just go, that's all right.
Exactly. Yes. One of my biggest pet peeves is there, and there. THEIR, THERE, and THEY''RE.
Yes. That one's really easy to, especially when you're in a hurry, to just throw the wrong one down. So I want to put in the chat a link so that you guys can sign up for that event. And I'm just going to put here in the chat as well. That date is going to be on the 22nd. July 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are meeting on Zoom, so you guys can show up from anywhere that you see this broadcast and found out about us. So, what else do we need to talk about before we wrap up today, Francine?
We have a special guest coming on the 29th.
Oh, I don't have that thumbnail up and ready.
Well, that's okay. Let me see
I think
if I can find it real fast.
I can tell you that he is a published author and he's got a bunch of books.
His name is Hal Eisenberg.
All right, awesome. So he's going to be joining us on the last Tuesday of the month. Next week, we're going to be going through making a backstory for one of your characters. And what was the week after that?
The week after that, we haven't decided yet.
Oh, I thought we were still doing some stuff with the worksheet.
We can. Oh, I have an idea. Why don't we invite a guest in and help them work on their story?
Ooh, yeah, that'd be a good idea. All right. So if any of you out there right now are listening and you're like, ooh, I'm not afraid to go on a live stream and work on this, come on, send us a message, let us know. All right, so you may have noticed we're missing Joanna again. She is off busy, but she wants you guys all to know that she misses you and our retreat time. You could still hang out with Joanna in the community. She's writing some messages in there and things like that. So come hang out with us online. And let's see, how does this go? It goes, if you can conceive it, you can believe it, and you can achieve it. So,
from the head to the heart, to the hands.
Yes, you
can.
All right. Thank you, Francine, for helping me get some clarity on my story today. Everybody grab your copy of the worksheet from the Believe Retreat community, and we cannot wait to see you guys back here next week.